I'm going to talk about image manipulation. I've got this image of Seattle here, and I want to do a few things I want to show you. And a couple things I want to go over is bringing in different things from different things together, and a little bit of dodge and burn, and bringing in some of the local color. So first thing is I've got this image, and in the previous one we talked about cleaning up the image, which we can do. What I want to do is I want to bring in this Star Destroyer and hover it over above Seattle here. So I'm going to select this. I found this and I looked. There's a bunch of images of Star Destroyers from Star Wars, but the important thing is that you get one that has the same light source. I just copied and pasted that in there, and then with Control T transform, and I'm going to bring this size down so that it's somewhat in the distance. Maybe it's back here, and hit check. Now we've got so this photo is in a kind of a hazy day, and so I found an image of this where it has a general top light, although the shadows are pretty harsh, as they would be in space. But so we're going to have to make that look like it's integrated into the background. So first let's get rid of the black. That's the first thing, right, is to get rid of all this dark color so we can see through to the background. Now if that were white, we could turn on multiply, and one thing you could start is just try some different, so there's lighten, that's not going to work. There's screen, and still too much, So here we're going to use our magic wand, which is, where did our magic wand go? Here it is, magic wand. And right up here in tolerance, we can see how close it selects. It got a little bit of the top here, so I want to tighten the tolerance up, and let's try 24. And see, it just selects the black, and it got rid of some of that stuff. And if it goes too much, so a couple things we could do is we could tighten the tolerance. We could also go here to our quick mask. You can see all the places where it did quick mask, and go in and mask off a little bit more, because I didn't want it to get the underside. So I'm just going to kind of go around by hand and make sure that doesn't get lost. Whoops. And so that's going to be our selection. I'm going to delete that away. Okay, so I need to erase out some of this stuff. There's a black line that got left there, and my opacity is too low. And why is this important? Well, if you want to start to bring in some other things, depending on what you're trying to do, with architecture renderings, you can bring in other images from like cars or buildings or things like that, and it can be helpful to show that. Now, one of the problems we have is that it is too sharp. Things get atmospheric perspective in that they get a little bit hazy, like our tower, the Space Needle thing there. So let's try a couple things. One, we could try bringing the opacity down, and let's zoom out here so it looks like. So I'm bringing the opacity down and letting that sky come through. And you can play with that. So that's one thing we can do. is bring some of the sky up through there and make it look like it's more integrated. Another thing we can do is we could paint over top of this with some of that sky. So for example, I make a new layer here and I go with my paintbrush and I pick some of this color, bring the opacity down, and especially on the, so I bring in some of that color into the top pieces here, bring in some of the lower color to the underside, and I gotta soften this brush up a bit. And bring some of that blue here. So I'm just trying to bring some of that sky color in. And let's zoom out a bit just to make it look like getting some of that hazy fog there on the underside and look like it's a bit more integrated into this space. So it's always good to check back and see if that's looking pretty close. It is looking pretty close, and we can also make sure that it is more integrated. See, like my Space Needle is a little blurry, and this maybe is the same distance away. Maybe it's making a connection as a spaceport, so we might add a little tiny bit of blur to it. There we go. And we could always bring that opacity down a little bit more. I want it to look more integrated into it. And then erasing out some of this extra stuff. Take out some of the color on the underside because it does have a strong, it's all top light with a little reflected light on the underside. The other thing that I wanted to show you is about using feathered selection. So we'll do that in the next section.